All right, folks, let's talk about our favorite gal, Nancy Pelosi, and bring on to the show my friend and host of the Dollop podcast. If you haven't listened to that, please do. He goes into history. He's a lefty socialist. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Dave Anthony. What's up, dude?
Hi, I am, of course, here to represent the pro-Pelosi side. Being a socialist.
Yeah, of course she's a big lefty. That's how you're worth $100 million in politics.
That's right.
Is it?
No, look, the best leftists, the best people to fight for you are the people who have over $100 million. That's the fighter right there. I think Marx said that.
Marx, or maybe it was Trotsky, said everybody needs a third ice cream freezer. I think he said that at the turn of the century.
I think a really good sign for the Democratic Party is when the Speaker of the House goes on TV and reveals that she has maybe 30 pints of $12 ice cream. And then people look into it and they discover that ice cream maker has donated tons of money to the Democratic Party. And then people look further into it and they discover that the Biden campaign has purchased thousands and thousands of dollars of that ice cream. It's not a grift at all. It's not just a giant party grift. It's just totally a normal party. They're not like now just selling ice cream to make money. It's normal. It's very normal.
There's nothing says more to me about democracy than just a fakey product placement, like some Instagram model doing a shuffle dance, holding like a Bud Light seltzer or whatever. Like tell me the difference. Tell me the difference. Like, oh man, yeah. It's good business.
Look, it's good business and they're good leaders. And I just don't want to go after him very much because Trump. So you don't want to attack him because you don't want to look. I get it's blatant corruption and they're really responsible for almost everything. But look, don't attack them.
Well, I want to show everybody, and I know that Jimmy showed this earlier, but I couldn't. Oh. I can't. This is such. If you're wondering why you don't have a new stimulus plan, like this is the whole Democratic model is fake resistance. I mean, they've been doing this for so long. I mean, this is the Obamacare. Oh, those obstructionist Republicans. No. You had control of the House and the Senate. You could have given us free health care when Obama was in power, and you didn't. Yeah. So they just constantly don't let things happen and then blame the Republicans. And the Republicans are awful. Not that they're a good party. They're just awful.
Yeah, there was a really good article by Glenn Greenwald in like 2006. He basically described the shuffle where there's always a Democrat who stops the thing. There's one or two. If everybody wants it, there's going to be one or two that stop the bill from passing, and then everyone blames them, and they're either already retiring or not up for re-election for years. So it's just a shuffle. It's a game that they play. It's theater.
Yeah, it's great theater. Well, I want everybody to watch some of this great, fantastic theater. And by the way, you're watching The Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. We are here with Dave Anthony. Please hit the like and subscribe button so that you can watch us take apart sociopaths like this. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to make Wolf Blitzer look like a real journalist.
And as you know, there are Americans who are being evicted from their homes. They can't pay the rent. Many Americans are waiting in food lines for the first time in their lives. Can you look them in the eye, Madam Speaker, and explain why you don't want to accept the president's latest stimulus offer?
Well, because thank you very much, Wolf. And I hope you'll ask the same question of the Republicans about why they don't really want to meet the needs of the American people. But let me say to those people, because all of my colleagues, we represent these people. I have for over 30 years represented my constituents. I know what their needs are. I listen to them, and their needs are not addressed in the president's proposal. So when you say to me, why don't you accept theirs? Why don't they accept ours? Our legislation is there to do three things primarily: to honor our workers, honor our heroes, our healthcare workers, our police and fire first responders, our teachers, our transportation, sanitation, food workers, the people who make our lives work. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without them. Many of them have risked their lives so that to save lives, and now they will lose their jobs because
they really
let the states go bankrupt.
Excuse me for interrupting,
let the states go bankrupt.
Madam Speaker, but they really need the money right now, and even members of
I understand
your own,
that, but
but even members of your own caucus, even members of your own caucus, Madam Speaker, want to accept this deal, $1.8 trillion. Congressman Ro Khanna, for example. Well, let me just quote Ro Khanna, a man you know well. I assume you admire him. He's a Democrat. And he just said this. He said, people in need can't wait until February. $1.8 trillion is significant and more than twice the Obama stimulus. Make a deal. Put the ball in McConnell court. So what do you say to Ro Khanna?
What I say to you is, I don't know why you're always an apologist. And many of your colleagues apologize for the Republican position. Ro Khanna, that's nice. That isn't what we're going to do. And nobody's waiting till February.
Okay, so I mean, what?
The first thing that struck me is when he starts talking about how much trouble people are in. She's smiling.
Of course, yep.
It's just simple optics. You're on a stage. You're being watched. We know the words are going to come out of your mouth. They're going to be shit. But you don't smile. Like there's a disconnect that is so vast that when someone is speaking to you about the horrors of the pandemic in America, this isn't the response.
Yeah.
It's just a human instinct. If someone's telling you bad stuff, you don't smile. It's like if someone looks at you and goes, "Oh, my uncle died." What the fuck are you doing?
It's amazing to watch because now let's just speak. This is Wolf Blitzer, who when somebody said a couple years ago, we got to end all these wars. He said, well, there's a lot of jobs. Like this is Wolf Blitzer, by the way. He is a pro-war corporate mouthpiece who's calling her out. And this is the thing. And she's like, I talk about my constituents. Yeah, you have the seventh wealthiest district in the United States. So, and the constituents you're talking about aren't the homeless people in the streets in San Francisco, where there's literally like a feces problem because people are going to the bathroom on the streets because they got nowhere to live. Your constituents are the folks in the wine cave. Like, let's be real clear. Your people, Pelosi, are the wine cave, Silicon Valley millionaires and billionaires. That's who her constituency is. But it's so, and she's like, she keeps going on recess and she's handing Trump like that ice cream thing. Then Trump turned it into a campaign ad. He showed all these people in line for food and living on the streets. And then her just going, I love ice cream. And then you point out that it really was just a product placement spot. So it would be, Trump is so beatable. Yeah. If you're even just kind of an actual lefty.
Well, if you have an ideology,
right?
If you have an ideology, you can beat Trump. If you don't have one and you're just saying what you think people want to hear, then you're going to lose. At some point, I think Biden will probably win because Trump is so bad. Like, I think at this point, a potato could beat Trump.
Right.
But what comes after Trump with these fucking idiot Democrats is terrifying.
Yeah. It really is because, again, this is such, even just from the political, optics, as you say, and like trying to score points with your voting base or whatever, or undecided voters, you should say, yeah, we're accepting this, but it should have been better or something, or propose a better, just go, no, we want this one. This one actually has more things in it for our people, rather than just no. They keep saying no. And so Trump looks like the good guy going, I keep offering you $1.8 trillion and you say no.
Yeah. I mean, they don't want to pass the bill because they think it'll help Trump with the election. That's what they're doing. That's the stupid fucking game they're playing. and the whole thing could burn down, because if Trump loses, there's no money coming. Now you're in Woodrow Wilson territory after he lost, in which he just said, fuck all of you and let the country go to fucking hell. If that is the nightmare scenario, is that they don't take this deal and then there's nothing until January 20th. And what happens in that time? I mean, we've already gone months without anything. I mean, now you're talking like, people in the streets burning shit down. Like, this can get real.
Get real ugly. I mean, I've talked about it. You've talked. I mean, the 28 to 30 million evictions that are hanging over everybody's head. Guess what? The bunch of those are going to start November 1st, and then December 1st, and then January 1st. And you like literally, and then they've been saying this since day one. COVID is going to spike in the winter. It's already starting. Like in colder climates, the UK, Eastern Europe. I mean, like I was talking to somebody, the numbers have spiked back up in Moscow. Like, I mean, anywhere where it's starting to get cold again, the numbers are spiking again. So we're 2-3 weeks away from the northern states becoming cold again. They already, some of them sort of are, but that's a matter of time. And again, they don't realize how bad they look when people are this hungry. And it'd be so easy to just say, we'll make this deal with Trump because we want to help the people, but you got to let us get in there and get him out of there so we can really help you. Because right now, here's one thing Trump could do. I don't think his people around him would let him do this, but I've talked about it before on the show. So 85% of all student debt is federal loans. Yeah. The president doesn't need Congress or the Senate. An executive order literally can sign a piece of paper and that money is forgiven. You don't need taxpayer money. You just say, you people don't have to pay it back. And it would infuse trillions of dollars into the economy. He could do that November 1st, November 2nd, and just go, okay, I'm trailing in the polls by 20 points. Hey, here's a couple $1 trillion, everybody. You all get this thing. Now who you're going to vote for? What would that do?
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't understand the game. I mean, we've talked about this. Are they trying to lose, or are they just so fucking stupid that you can't comprehend what they're doing? I mean, those are the two options, right? A lot of people say they're trying to lose, and I'm like, you might be giving them too much credit for actually being that smart. There's a really good case that they're just really, really stupid. So, what is it?
I guess my sliver of hope in this shit sandwich with a slice of tomato is, I want to believe that they're smart enough to have some kind of long game, because the notion that they're this dumb is really like, oh God, because Trump's pretty dumb. He doesn't know what he's doing. The people around him are a combination of pure evil and stupid, and some of them are a little bit of both. But like, because I got to wonder, like the Democrats, if they're this dumb, like I want to believe that they're thinking, and it's a poor strategy to have, even if this is correct, it's an awful choice, is that they're going, well, the economy is going to collapse no matter what. So we want to lose so that it's not pinned around our necks. It's pinned around Trump's neck, which is a horrific strategy to have. And it will affect all of us very poorly. Right? Like, they're just saying, we're okay if some of you die. So we're not blamed.
That's right. I mean, it's the craziest game. I think that none of us thought that it could be this bad, even in your worst nightmare of how bad and corrupt they all were. I think in the back of our minds, we were like, well, if a pandemic comes and people are dying and everything's literally like the French Revolution time, they'll step up because they're not that insanely corrupt and stupid. But it turns out they are. Like, you're watching the rest of the world every country is addressing this and figuring out different ways to maneuver it, and America's just like, so here's our plan, go fuck yourself. And I'm the lefty, go fuck yourself.
I know. It's staggering.
The fact that anybody thinks these people are on the left, these are Republicans and fascists. That's all we have. We have the right and we have fascists. There's nothing else governing this country. There's nothing else.
Well, if you weren't clear on that, I'm sure after you watch the president and vice president debates, that's all you needed to see. They're both agreeing. No, we're not going to ban fracking. Oh, it's like two Republicans. Yeah. Like it was a Republican debate, both of them. And so the choice is like fracking with science or fracking without science. Those are the choices that you get. And back to your point, though, of like, you're right. Had you asked me a year ago, like, Graham, hey, let's say some crazy pandemic, I'd say, well, just from their own greedy self-preservation, they'll put stimulus plans in place so they don't get voted out or they don't get lynched or guillotined. They're not that greedy. I mean, they're smart enough for self-preservation of just like, well, I want to get reelected, so I better give people stimulus money. But I didn't think they would literally be like, nah, we're going to go take a recess. Like, it's just, I mean,
it's insane to watch. You're watching and you're like, I don't like, this is beyond anything I thought was humanly possible. This is literally French aristocrats. These are the people from the Hunger Games. It's
yes.
It's mind-boggling. We're watching the people from the Hunger Games. Nancy Pelosi, at the end of that interview, it got even testier, and she said worse things. She said fucking worse things at the end of it. She got condescending and was snarky, and she's like, we take care of those people. I live in California. You don't take care of those people.
No.
You have never taken care of those people. I moved out of LA because physically I could not stomach watching how we treat human beings. 70,000 people living on the streets dehumanizes me living within it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're okay with that.
They're totally okay with that. And look, the homeless population has like doubled in the last year. I mean, it was getting worse and worse and worse. It went up from like 22 to 36,000 in like a couple years. And then when COVID hit, it doubled and went up to 70,000. And you can't drive in Los Angeles. You can't drive definitely a mile, but more than like probably a half mile without seeing some type of little tent city under an underpass or something. You can't do it. And when I moved to LA 20 some years ago, it wasn't like that. It wasn't. There was always homeless. I mean, we're a capitalist society, so we've always had people living, but it has gotten so bad. And what makes it even more egregious in Los Angeles is tent city and, new luxury apartment complex on that corner, like literally across the street. And they're still building them in the middle. Like, and I'm like, people are moving out of LA. The rents are coming down. People are forming rent strikes. I'm like, who has some of them? I'm not exaggerating this number, are $5,000 one bedrooms in like Hollywood and stuff.
Yeah.
Who has that money?
No, and the people who have that money are now leaving the city.
Right.
It's really like watching a Ponzi scheme when everyone knows it's a Ponzi scheme, but they're still doing the Ponzi scheme.
Right.
And everyone's like, no, that's a Ponzi scheme. And they're like, yeah, but we're still going to do it because we're playing the game. I mean, we're essentially being gaslit by both parties. The fracking thing you brought up is the sort of the ultimate example of that, in which they're both denying reality.
Yeah.
And everybody like us is like, no, I actually don't want to live on a hell planet. I don't want my kid to have to eat other humans. I'd actually prefer we address this. and then everyone just goes, no, that's how you do it. You frack your way out of it. And you're like, no, actually science has said that's not how you do it. Oh, but those are our choices. This is exactly the same as 1972, Hubert Humphrey versus Nixon. The Democrats had a choice to pick an anti-war candidate. The majority of Americans were against the war, and they picked Hubert Humphrey. So then people had a choice between a pro-war candidate or a pro-war candidate, and the majority of people were against the war. And then Hubert Humphrey lost, and the Democrats couldn't figure out what the fuck happened, so they blamed the guy on the left.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And when they had a guy running in 68 that was a real anti-war candidate and was a populist, oh, weird, he got murdered in the hallway after he won California. What a shocking. And they're still like, did anyone see Sirhan's around with a gun? What happened? It was all this shady shit. So yeah, it's mystifying. And then of course neoliberals will come after people like you and I. You guys voted, you didn't get it. Like, I'm sorry. You're literally you're blaming the messenger. All the things we're pointing out, we're not making up. They're not conspiracies. We're just pointing out the awful facts of this Democratic Party that gave us Trump. You should be furious if you don't like Trump. You should be furious at the Democratic Party for allowing Trump to happen. Watching that presidential debate a week ago, I was like, for real? 330 million people. These are our two best. These are our two best options. It's like,
yeah,
you're all fired up for the Super Bowl. You got all your friends over. You got all this food, and you're expecting these are the two best teams going to go head to head. And then there's like a fat beer league flag football team that's in a parking lot playing, pushing, flopping all over each other. And you're like, oh, I thought I was watching the Super Bowl. No, you're watching two rapists with dementia, one with a coke problem, one who likes to sniff hair. Like, it's really, those are the choices. It's insane. I can't watch this and then listen to former friends of ours in Hollywood that we just can't talk to anymore because they lost critical thinking skills. Like
they're no longer tethered to reality. And this is really a fight for reality. I mean, in reality is crushing who they are, but you've got a party who should be the left party, right? And so what would a left party do in this circumstance? Well, because the rich keep making more money during the pandemic, you would go out and say, look, we all have to be patriotic. This is our country. We have to take care of our fellow countrymen. And one of the things we have to do in this case is you guys are going to have to take a hit, and you're going to have to get taxed for a little while, and we're going to have to take care of each other until we get out of this, because we're at war. And one of the things we have to do in war is come together, and we have to take care of those people who are less fortunate than us. We have to tax you guys and then save the other people. But we don't have that. What we have are governors like Newsom, who just starts opening up restaurants because he doesn't know what's happening, and doing stuff like putting out a flyer that tells you to take a bite and then put your mask back on and chew and swallow, and then take your mask down and take another bite and put your restaurants are the #1 place that COVID is spread. And that's the Democratic solution. Hawaii is now opening up, even though all these people are freaking out. And it's an inadequate plan. And all the scientists say that's an inadequate plan. So Hawaii is going to get slaughtered because, again, they can't tax the rich. They're not taxing the rich because they are neoliberals and they cannot say the simple words, taxes are good.
Yeah. They can't just go, hey, you're making billions of dollars in profit. You're gonna pay to keep people off of bread lines. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna pay to put people back in their homes. You're gonna pay for their rents to get paid. You're gonna pay the rent. You're gonna pay Jeff Bezos. You're gonna pay everybody's rent. Okay, you're just gonna do that right now, and you're gonna unionize your employees, and you're gonna give them hazard pay because that actually will infuse more money into the economy. And you know what? Hey, big developer, you want to open up a fancy property in cities like Los Angeles and Dallas and wherever else? You need every room that you build. There needs to be 2 rooms for the homeless. So you figure out how you want to do that because you're paying for the homeless. Because like Finland has a housing first program. They had about 10 years ago, had an awful homeless problem. They came up with housing first, putting people in homes, giving them medical, job training, drug treatment, whatever it was. And then they were able to go, because you can't get a job unless you have a residence, and you can't get a residence unless you have a job. So they closed that, and they have an 80% success rate. And it's been so successful that like Utah has adopted it. Well, I'm sorry, Walmart family, you fucking pay for this shit. Like, yeah, because their stock, their money's going through the roof. Walmart is making ridiculous profits because it's the cheapest game in town and you have to shop there, you know? And so
right. The other thing about the homeless thing you bring up is that it's cheaper. Right now, the way we handle homeless is by policing them, and it's more expensive. And all the studies have shown if you just put them in housing, it's cheaper. It's far. So what the fuck are we doing? And then you have Pelosi out there talking shit. And one of the reasons that I think Wolf Blitzer did that is there was an interview on NPR like 5 or 6 years ago, and they were talking to a rich guy, and he was just saying, they're going to kill us. He just kept saying, they're going to drag us off our yachts and set our yachts on fire and kill us. And he kept saying that over and over and over again. And that's what's going through Wolf Blitzer's head. Wolf Blitzer is a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
And multimillionaires don't start talking about people like that unless they're concerned about themselves. And Wolf Blitzer is looking around, and his little spidey sense is going off, and he's going, oh, fuck, I'm going to get dragged off my fucking yacht.
Oh, yeah. Like, you think you're gated community? I mean, there's that classic thing in that when that Black Lives Matter protest, when that gated community and those two white people that Karen came up with their gun, right? And they were terrified. And the people were just like, we're peacefully protesting. They're terrified because in the back of their minds, they know they live in an egregiously wealthy community. And one day there's going to be 2,000 people coming in that gated community, and they're going to be heavily armed. And your little gun is not your husband. It's not going to be enough. Even the people like, I got guns. Okay, well, if your house is surrounded by 2,000 people, it's not going to be enough. And they're really waking up to this. Like they're really like, uh-oh, that we better watch out. And so, but there's people like Pelosi who just, in the end of that interview that I didn't show that you're talking about, where she just basically becomes like Trump. She just starts yelling, when you call these rich psychopath, baby boomer, whatever oligarchs out, they all act the same way. Like, and Trump is the most egregious version. Oh, fake news, blah, blah, blah. They just can't be called.
That's what she did.
Yeah.
That's what she did. She talked over, she kept going, but, and not letting him talk. And then doing that, it's saying that's not true. It was exactly Trump. It's just a rich person being told reality, and they don't want to fucking hear it.
You can't tell a rich person no. You can't tell a rich person no. They're just, it's like these Hollywood celebrities that are wealthy, making good 6- and 7-figure incomes, some of them 8-figure incomes, and they think they're cool, and they think because they got a rainbow flag on their Prius or whatever, that they're part of the cool kids. And you go, no, you're a rich elitist. And they flip out. They flip out on us. Like when we call them out for like the class warfare that's going on, they think they're the lefty woke, and you're not. No, you're not. And they think everybody Trump's the man of the people. No, you're not. You're a rich kid. You've bankrupted 6 companies. Your dad gave you $1 million. You're the worst. Pelosi, these are the worst people. Pelosi, Trump, they're the worst. They're the worst people. But speaking of that, I want to talk about who Pelosi just endorsed what candidate people should be supporting that you wanted to talk about. So it's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the show today. So
Nithya Raman, first of all, I just want to set up. So LA is a massive city, and it is a weak mayoral system, which means the mayor doesn't have that much power, and the people who pull all the strings are the city council, and they oversee the budget. And you're talking about 7 or 8 million people, and they're seeing over a budget that's much larger than most states. A lot of states, North Dakota, South Dakota, they're way the fuck bigger than that. And so what LA does and what that city council does really reverberates around the country. And if they set the tone, if they were a leftist city setting an example, well, you would have shockwaves going throughout the country. So Nithya Raman is really great on the environment. She wants a new Green Deal for the city. She's public banking. She's everything that we believe in. She's, tenant rights, all that shit across the board. She's very left. She's very good. Endorsed by Bernie. So her opponent is David Ryu. He's the incumbent. And the problem with the city council is they vote together 99% of the time because they are landlords or owned by landlords. And when Ryu went into office, besides being accused of rape in like 20 years ago, in which the case just was dropped, it wasn't that he was innocent or guilty. They just went, literally, this is what they did. That's what the cops do. It's just one of those classic cases of the red kit sits on the shelf. That's what happened to him. So he runs for office, and he runs that he's not going to take any money from developers ever. He's never going to take money from developers. And as soon as he gets in office, he just starts taking tons of money from developers. And there's been emails going back and forth that people get a hold of through Information Acts. And he's just in bed with all these just sleaze bags. he started using homeless organizations, attacking them for helping Nithya. I mean, he's really a piece of shit. Pelosi endorsed him today. You're talking about a woman of color who is super progressive, who wants the things that will help people. And of course, Pelosi rolls in today and sides with developers. And what were you talking about in Los Angeles earlier? Just giant buildings going up for rich people while homeless people lay around everywhere. Under Ryu in the city council, homelessness has gone up like, I think it's 60% or something crazy.
Yep. And that was before the pandemic.
Yeah. And they should all be gone. And now we have a woman who worked with homeless organizations and has great plans to solve this homeless crisis. And this is who Pelosi is coming out against. Really, today I did a thing on Twitter where I was like, let's all donate to Nithya Raman so she has a big fucking day that she can announce and that we can say, this is what your endorsement of Ryu brought. I think we're up to like $4,000, which is great because LA matches whatever she gets. It might be more at this point because they've been on here for a little while. So go to nithyaforthecity.com, donate to Nithya, and you know, please tweet how fucked Pelosi is, or on Facebook or whatever. She's really been doing a number, as we all know, on progressives all over the country. Texas, she went down there during the last election and campaigned for a guy who votes with fossil fuel companies 75% of the time. And really, it was the margin that lost a young Latina woman the election. All Pelosi does, because there's so many young progressive women who are Latina or black or whatever, non-white, all she does is come out against those people because those people are really super progressive. So she ends up always going after minority people, different ethnicities, people from sort of diverse, interesting backgrounds. That's all she does. She goes around the state annihilating the people that they're supposed to champion.
Oh, yeah. And it's just like a rich white lady is going after these women of color who usually come up in some strong labor activism, like they were union reps or something. They all have this really strong, they were environmental activists. They were talking about how in California, communities of color typically are frontline communities with regards to like the oil refineries and anything hurting the environment. They just always, and so these people have been like, they grew up in these communities, grew up as community activists, and now they're running for office. And so you think, oh, the woke Democrats, and now, and like all these like Hollywood women, wealthy, privileged, Me Too women, or all girl power, they're nowhere to be found when Pelosi bails on all these actual lefty women of color. And just to give some people watching the show a little context about what Dave was talking about with the Los Angeles City Council. So I've talked about this numerous times on this show. For instance, the LA City Council determines the operating budget. I've told you, LAPD gets 54% of the operating budget. It is $3.1 billion. So the city of LA has a $5.86 billion roughly operating budget. As Dave said, it's bigger than like whole states. And so that's why they have locked arms, because they don't want a Kshama Sawant coming in there like what happened in Seattle. They can't have that in LA. So that's why Pelosi shows up and backs the pro-developer guy and screws over the rent control, because rents are through the roof in LA. One of the reasons the thing I saw, especially since March when the shutdown happened, there's a tent city by me. I live in Santa Monica, and Venice Beach is a tent city. And I started to see people who had just shown up there, and there's like bookshelves and like furniture. Like they packed whatever they could in their car, a bed, kids. I mean, I go by there with food and shoes and whatever else. And I gave some to a woman with her kids. I mean, there's a guy down there who's like, I had a decent job. He's like, hey man, you got a computer? I'm having a problem getting my unemployment benefits. I got to get and he was totally cognizant, like, not to mention all the people that, are suffering from mental illness and drug addiction, and we need to help them. Like, what kind of a society are we that just says, sorry, not my problem? And And again, going back to what we said at the top of this discussion, it is more expensive to deal with people living on the streets. I mean, there's public health stuff, the cops, which the cops don't want to deal with this. The cops would probably prefer to not have to deal with this, quite honestly. And so, and here we are backing developers again. And it's like LA has had so many protests just since the shutdown, just since George Floyd. But even I was in protest way before the pandemic shutdown. I mean, they were protesting every Wednesday outside of Jackie Lacey's office. And so it's just like, anyway, here's a way for you to get involved. Dave, tell us the website again to support this woman.
It's Nithya for the City, NITHYA for the city.com. You can go there and you can donate. Phone bankers are needed. Any kind of volunteers are super needed. Again, it's the situation we all know. It's someone going up against someone who has all the rich people behind them. So but she's clearly the better candidate. I think she has a ton of momentum. Even a lot of liberals are on board, you know. So so she really has a shot, but really, like anything else, phone banking, get involved in the campaign, check out the campaign, see if it's something you want to get involved in. And again, if you're out of state, this does matter to you. If we can flip this city council, it's going to matter to the whole country. It's like Graham said, Seattle is making waves. If we can do this in LA, it'll be a big deal.
Yeah, it'll be in bigger waves too. And, you know, like, look, LA tried to pass public banking in 2018, and we were all looking to North Dakota because they have a public bank there. So when something like this happens, it's significant, and you can see real change, and you can point to these cities. I mean, we talk about, you know, municipal broadband. They have it in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They have the best internet in the country. So imagine if a city the size of LA, what that would do. Everyone would be talking about how they changed it, how they fixed homelessness. And by the way, in 2018, I think we passed Measure M, or maybe it was 2016, which was like a $500 million initiative to stop homelessness. Where's that money gone? So it's like people are addressing it and trying to do it, but you can't when the developers control the city councils. So it's why it's so important. And I talk about this all the time. Everyone wants some progressive to come into the White House and wave their magic wand and save it. And I say, your local politics are more important. Get control of your local city council, and you can make mass changes then. So
mass change. I mean, you can completely change the city if you take it over. I mean, it's astounding what you can do.
Yes, the city council has way more. It's going to affect your daily life more than the president. I'll tell you that right now, because everything, the 90% of what happens in your daily life, trash collection, streets, homelessness, all that stuff that's municipal laws. That's municipal government. That's not the federal government. The federal government isn't involved until there's like, you're on a highway or there's subsidies or whatever. So it's really significant. Well, Dave, dude, thanks for coming on the show. Where can people check out the Dollop and all that?
Yeah, you can just download it anywhere. It's a podcast. We don't really have any video. We're gonna start doing live streams. We've done one, so we'll do more of those. You can keep your eye out for that. And then I have also West Wing thing, which is another podcast I do in which we discuss how the show The West Wing rotted all liberals' brains.
Please listen to that podcast, folks. It's critical. It's critical work you're doing with that podcast, Dave. That show, oh God, it was like written in a CIA think tank or something like that. It's just unbelievable. When I watched it like a year or two ago. I was like, I kind of remember that show being good. Aaron Sorkin, and I was like, oh my God, like this is just like neoliberal globalism. It's hooray! It's awesome.
I mean, I watched an episode last week, and they were like, "Do we have to just take over Mecca?" And just like, yeah, it's quite the liberal show you have there.
Oh, so tolerant. It's so tolerant talking about just bombing Mecca. That's fantastic. Cool. And aren't you also on Rockfin?
I'm not yet. That's about to happen. Yeah, I got all my equipment. I just got the last piece I needed today, so that'll start happening.
All right, folks. So it's another reason to support Rockfin, because once Dave puts his stuff on there, signing up for Rockfin is free, and the $10 a month thing gets everybody, all the content creators across the platforms, bonus content. Dude, thanks a lot for coming on the show, and we'll see you soon.